Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Here now is your host, Jennifer Mealy, Chief Communications Officer and Managing Director of Evangelization of the Diocese of Greensburg.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Mealy. Happy to be here today with the founder of an organization called Hair Peace, and that's P-E-A-C-E. Hair Peace is a 501c3 nonprofit founded by Bonny Diver, a famous name in Pittsburgh. I think everybody knows Bonny from her years in radio and broadcasting. She does a fantastic job. We're also joined today by Lisa Graff, who is also a survivor from 2016-2017. So Bonny, welcome. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
Bonny, I'm going to, sort of kick things off. I mean, I'm sure once you start talking, so many people are going to recognize your voice. So take us back to 2003. Where were you working? What were you doing? And how did this all start?
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me on. And it's been an interesting story. One of those stories that I never dreamed I would tell. Never dreamed it would be my story. But, in 2003, I was out riding my horse and had a bad fall and broke my shoulder blade. And as I was checking out the aches and pains and bumps and bruises from that, I found a lump on the side of my breast and thought, oh, surely this can't be what I think it is, because every woman, I think, has that in their mind, lump on the breast. And so it's like, it's a bit shocking. And can it be? And so I went back to the doctor for the other things. And I said, what is this? And they said, well, let's get that checked out. So I had the biopsy, I had the ultrasound and another mammogram. I was 46 at the time and premenopausal, which kind of means a lot. It's a big part of the story, premenopausal. And I had been having a mammogram every year since I was 40 and was still within my year for having, on time, my mammogram. So that's why I thought it's a lump on the side of my breast, but could this be cancer? I just had a mammogram 7 months ago and it felt pretty large. It seemed like it was about the size of a robin's egg. And so it was still in my head going, how could it be? Is it going to go away? What is it? And so with the testing that we did, they said, they gave me the call. I was working in radio at the time over at WRRK, which is now Bob FM. But at that time I was doing middays and got the call from my doctor. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you that we have found that you do have breast cancer. And so at that moment, and I will just say that I'm not the only person in the room. Obviously, Lisa has gone through this as well. And so many women, it's just unbelievable how many of us have gotten that call or have heard those words. So at the time, I felt like I was the only person in the room. It felt very alone. It was, a target on my back that I got hit. And again, I just had a mammogram 7 months ago. How could this be? So picked myself up off the ground and said, what do I do now? And my doctors said, well, we have a plan for you and we're going to get this all together and figure out what to do. Well, at the time, you think when you're diagnosed, it's cancer. And I don't know a lot about cancer. I'm 46. All I know about cancer is that people die from cancer and it's awful. And being in radio and being in the music business, I immediately went to Linda McCartney, Paul McCartney's wife, and I thought, she died from breast cancer. They couldn't save her. Why would they be able to save me? And, so you have the fear that goes along with that. I mean, here you are in just a couple of days of finding out the diagnosis and everything is going on in your head of all the different scenarios and the spinning and what could this be? So as I said, I picked myself up off the floor. I said, well, let's plan my funeral. And I think a lot of people do that. Lisa, did you do that as well?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. So Lisa is, as you said, Jennifer, is also a breast cancer survivor from just the last few years. But, there's so many things that we all are kind of put into that situation that we have go through our head that it's a common thing that we do. And so, then you see the doctors and they said, no, put those papers away. We're not going to do that. We're going to put you through treatment. We're going to take care of this and get you on your way. And so, okay. So I one of the things I asked my doctors as I was getting the testing to find out that this was breast cancer with a biopsy, mammogram, ultrasound, I said, so I just had a mammogram 7 months ago. Why did this not show up 7 months ago? And they said to me, which I think is kind of chilling, it didn't show up this time either. Now, here's this lump the size of, a robin's egg.
Wow.
And
wow.
Yeah, wow. And they said it still didn't show up on the mammogram, but we found it in the biopsy and we saw it on the ultrasound. So I'm like, well, here I thought I was okay getting a mammogram every year, and what the heck, right? So it becomes, okay, you have to do screenings, because for some people, they don't find it themselves. The mammogram is the only way to find it. But for others...
And Bonnie, this is in 2003, like you said, this was 2D imaging. This was before 3D, even 4D imaging was there. So, I mean, this is a huge improvement in technology since that time.
Correct. So back in 2003, 18 years ago, they did 2D mammograms. And so the lesson on all of that is the 2D mammogram is something that only sees really well through women who are postmenopausal or over 50 years old because of the fatty tissue of your breast. It's easier to see in a 2D mammogram. 3D mammogram will see better in dense breast, and dense breast means that they're more active and ready to go into service if you're going to have a baby. So they're not retired or fatty tissue, as I say. So the younger woman with a 2D mammogram, it's really not a good idea. And I didn't know that. And that's all that they had back then. So I did the 2D mammogram. But the message at that point for me was, ladies, get your mammogram for screening, but also do a self-exam.
Right.
And if you have any other questions, ask for an ultrasound or ask for an MRI or ask for something else in case you think something's going on, to cover everything. And so I went off and I started talking on the radio about that. And I said, look, you need to do a self-exam as well as a mammogram for the best results. And if you're younger, for sure, you've got to do that self-exam. And then my doctors at the end of all my treatment said, okay, well, you're on the radio. You're talking about all this stuff. You seem really passionate about trying to get a message out there. So we're going to ask you if you would be the person that would start an organization to help to pay for wigs for women who are going through chemotherapy, because it's expensive and it's not generally covered by insurance to pay for a wig. And with most cancers, and I know this is, in October, what we call Pinktober, right, Lisa?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're Pinktobering it now. But for breast cancer, generally speaking, you're going to lose your hair 14 days after the first chemotherapy treatment. That's hard. That walk that you go through. Lisa, when you had to go through chemotherapy and you had that in your mind, here where I'm getting my first chemo, I got to do this because it's going to save my life. I don't like it, but it's going to save my life in a dark alley. It's not who I take to the prom, but, thank you, chemo, for being there to be my bodyguard. However, it's not a very pleasant experience. We do it, we survive, we get through it, we dust ourselves off on the other side, and we continue on. Lisa, when you went through that process of your first chemo and then saying, here we go, 2 weeks later, what was that like for you?
Well, my hair loss started at 7 days. And as you can see, this is the same, like my hair was like this when I was 52. I didn't even care about my hair. I didn't want to die. But at 7 days, it started to shed. I mean, really started to shed. I mean, you just brush your hair and I had clumps coming out. And I didn't realize the people around me saying that. My doctor did tell me it would. And by 14 days, it would be all gone. And she was correct. By 14 days, it was all gone. But once Ron took off all the little remainders, it was one less thing I didn't have to worry about.
Now, is Ron your husband?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of cool thing. You, Jennifer, we have all these different opportunities of ways of having some control over what we have to go through. Mm-hmm. And so for some people, they'll say, I'm just going to let it all fall out, which is, I think, difficult because, like Lisa said, it kind of comes out in clumps and pieces. It feels like spider webbing. It's just like this webbing that's keep coming out and out and out. And there it is on the chair, and there's in my pillow, and it's in my shower. And it's just this process that it's annoying, and then traumatic and annoying. And it's like, there it goes. And another piece of me is falling out. And so then at that point you say, okay, what am I going to do about this? Let's bite the bullet. And so people do it in different ways. And Lisa, you had your husband shave your head.
Yeah, my son was there home from school, and I just said I was ready, and he trimmed it up, got it done, and actually went out the next day and got his head shaved. So both of us through the whole thing, both had bald heads. But like you said, it's one thing. It was like a step. Okay, that we're done. We met that. Let's move on. And then it was like not something I had to worry about. But
right.
That hair loss is traumatic for so many women. And I assume, Bonnie, that's why your doctors asked you to start this nonprofit.
Right. And so when you have hair loss, and when you don't have any hair, and you're a person that has to go to work, or and Hair Peace helps women with all types of cancer. So, breast cancer is the majority of the people that we hear from, but we help women with any type of cancer in Western Pennsylvania. And so that includes young women or girls with different types of cancer, blood cancers or leukemia or whatever they come up with, and then older women. So the whole gamut. So you lose your hair from chemotherapy, from cancer, and we're going to help out. We help with $200 to help to pay for a wig. I don't make wigs. Don't send me a ponytail. But sometimes I get a wig on my porch. I'm like, oh no. But if you do want to donate your ponytails or your used wigs that are slightly used, we have places listed on our website, which is Hair Peace, PEACE, hairpeace.org, and you'll find that information. So we help with the financial part of that. We give $200 to help to pay for the wig. And what people will do is call me on the phone and say, we're getting ready to go through this, or maybe they've already gone through it and now going through this. And I've lost my hair. I need something so that I can go shopping. I can go to work. I can go to school, or I can be around my family and grandchildren or whatever without making them maybe feel uncomfortable and trying to, not get the occasional stares at the grocery store. So wig is important in many, many different situations. And so we help out with that $200. We send that to the salon where they decide to go to get their wig. And there are many different salons in all of Western Pennsylvania that are very good. And we have them listed as well on our website. So when I did it, I was like, I don't know how to shop for a wig. Is this going to be like Halloween? What's it going to look like? I don't like this. I was so angry. And so some people connect me up with a professional wig medical hair loss salon. And that's all they did was medical hair loss for cancer patients. And so they were very good at it. They knew when I walked in the door that I didn't want to be there, but they were very loving, very kind, and walked me through it and took their time. And so they were very special people for me. And so it's important. And so once you go through that process, we help out with the $200. We send it in to help to pay for that. So when women call me, we say, okay, where are you getting the wig? We'll send the check out. So we write the check, we send it out. Then the conversation on the phone becomes, where are you in treatment? What's going on? Are you getting ready to start chemo? Have you had surgery yet? Or what's coming up? Are there any things that are going on you don't quite feel good about, or any kind of weird side effects? And all these things that a lot of us go through. So with that, we have a conversation, and that can go on for maybe an hour, those kind of things, because I think talking to another survivor, especially someone that you don't necessarily know, that's not a friend or a family member that you don't have to, talking to your family and friends, you don't want them to freak out right?
Right. And you want to try to stay strong for them. And this is fantastic stuff. We have to take a break here real quick, but I've had a wonderful conversation so far with Bonny Diver and Lisa Graff about Hair Peace, PEAC, a 501c3 nonprofit to help women suffering from cancer by wigs. And this is a fantastic story. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. We'll be right back.
This is Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you have a suggestion for a topic, or if your nonprofit organization would like to be featured on this program, call us during regular business hours at 724-216-1200.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.
Welcome back to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Mealy, here today with just such a wonderfully compelling story from Bonny Diver, longtime famous radio host in Pittsburgh, who's talking about her 501c3 called Hair Peace, PEAC. She herself is a breast cancer survivor. She's joined today by Lisa Graff, who is also a survivor. And we thank you, ladies, so much for being here, and very compelling. So you talk about how your doctors kind of convinced you to do this, and it really took off. And you were starting to talk about, hey, we're helping these women through more than just the purchase, this $200 that we're giving of a wig. The conversation really goes on, and they're able to rely on you for maybe some information that they didn't have or couldn't quite talk about with friends and family because they want to stay strong. You want to finish that, Bonny?
Sure. So we talk about, the different things they're going through, side effects, and then things that you can control because, well, we all want to have a little control, and it's a very out of control time to be diagnosed with cancer. And you don't know what your future is going to be, but you want to be able to do something that you can grab a hold of and move forward with in a positive way, and helps you to sleep better at night. Right. So what have I done today to fight cancer? So that can be stress reduction, which, when I say you've got to get your stress under control and you're going through cancer. And so that's almost laughable. Right, Lisa?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I know. It's like, oh, you want me to not have stress while I'm going through cancer? That's a good one. But it is really important. And laughter actually is a stress reducer. So you find laughter, you find peace, you find meditation, you find prayer, things like that will help your mind to settle a little bit. And then that's a way to fight stress, and your body will function at a higher level. Very important for that. And it's actually important for everybody. But when you're going through cancer, it's like, I got to kick it into gear. I can't wait until tomorrow.
Right.
Another thing we talk about is sometimes would be food. So what's some things that we know about food? Well, nobody ever said eating a plate of M&Ms for dinner was a good idea, except maybe Mr. M&M. But, there are things that, just make sense, and so we talk about good food. Some of your best, cancer fighting foods are garlic, onions, and lemons. They reduce inflammation. They're good for you. They're natural. Most people like them. Those Italian grandmas knew what they were talking about when, you would get sick and they'd give you the old garlic stuff, right? Big garlic. So those are healthy things. And when you know that and you do that in your meal prep, then you can sleep better at night. And so that's really important to do some good things with your food and maybe change some things around. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but we talk about that. And then, a little bit of activity in your life. We know through Sloan Kettering that if you can do 5 hours of aerobic activity a week, not necessarily during cancer, but when you get done with your treatment, and that could be a walk with the dog up a hill or whatever, get your heart rate up for 20 minutes. 5 hours of aerobic activity a week can reduce your chance of recurrence of breast cancer up to 50%. 50%.
Wow. You're kidding. No, that is a big number. I mean, this is so interesting. And I assume why you brought Lisa on this call was because she was one of the women who sort of benefited from this creation. And Lisa, you recently joined the board, I understand. So why don't you want to share a little bit about your experience?
Oh, well, my experience started when I was 52. I went for my mammogram and a bone density test. And really, I expected to walk in and walk out, not be asked if I had some time. And I was like, sure, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just, getting older here. And he found it. He did a sonogram, and then he asked me if I still had some more time, he would do a biopsy right here and now. And I was like, sure, like, why worry about it and come back later? Well, I'd like to get it over and done with. So he did it. And then he went on vacation. I went back to work. And he called me the following Tuesday while I was at home with my husband and told me that it was cancer. And you're shocked. I was shocked. I was saddened. I had lost some siblings to cancer. I lost my mother to cancer, but it wasn't breast cancer. So like Bonnie, I was like, are you sure? How can I have breast cancer? That's not what they had. And so he was really, really nice about it. He made me sit down and go through the next steps and building your team together. And I did. The next day, I had my surgeon. The following Friday, I had my oncologist. But what I didn't have time to process it because it was aggressive. And they ended up putting my port in December on a Thursday, and my chemo was the next day. So I didn't have a lot of time to process. My sister did trim my hair for me, so it wasn't the long stuff coming out. It was like a bob. And it was just overwhelming. She was the same sister who we went to K&J on Route 88. And I walked in there like Bonnie did, and I was like, I didn't want to be here. I didn't know what to do. My hair was gone. I was sick. My sister was with me, and she's like, here, call Bonnie. Gave me Bonnie's card. I went home. I put a call. Bonnie was in Florida at the time. She was on vacation. She called immediately. I think it's her voice just made me feel like, okay, you can do this. She didn't know me. She didn't know me from anybody. And yet she gave me power. She just talked to me. And then she told me she would send for me to go back to K&J, pick out a wig. They'll notify her. And which is what I did. I went with my sister again, and we picked out a wig. Bonnie, mine actually cost what Bonnie contributed. So I was very lucky. It took something off the plate for me because I was really afraid because it was the end of the year, beginning of the year, and you know how deductibles are with that. So I was, kind of afraid. Should I get a wig? Should I not? They're expensive. But with Bonnie's help, I was able to. And throughout the cancer, she would call and check on you. I just thought it was the sweetest thing. So when she called and she asked me to be on the board, I was like, yeah. I'm like, yes, I definitely want to do this. I want to give back. I send cards out monthly, and Bonnie, you wouldn't believe the cards I get back from people saying, thank you for cards. And
so let's explain that a little bit. So another thing that we do, Jennifer, is that we, when I talk to the women, I ask we send out the money to wherever they want. We send 2 books out that are informational book. One is called The Warrior's Guide. It's information about good food and side effects and things like that can help them, and some control. And then another book we have is called Prayers to Get Through Cancer. You're Never Alone. It's all the different situations you go through, like the night before chemo, getting ready for surgery, praying for your nurses, things like that. And it's a really nice book that we send to everyone. And then I also ask them if they're okay if I add them to my prayer list and we pray for them. Most all of them generally will say yes. And so we have a team, a prayer team, and they send out they pray for the people who are on the prayer list that month, and they send out cards. And so Lisa, that's her gift to giving back. And so she sends out cards to all of our survivors. On the prayer team, that's part of her role that she wants to do, which is, you get a card in the mail from somebody you don't know on a day you really need it that says, I'm encouraging you, and God loves you, and so do I. And we think that we're with you on this, and it's so meaningful to get something in the mail. So that's part of what Lisa does. Yeah.
This is just so touching. I'm, kind of choking up when I look at it. So how do you raise the money for this?
All right. So, we do fundraisers. We have a couple big fundraisers every year. One is called Recipe for Hope, which we just did a few weeks ago. We would normally have it in March, but COVID moved us back. We did it in September, and it was the biggest event that we've had. It was the 16th annual Recipe for Hope, with celebrities coming in aprons, serving food and auctions and things like that. It's so much fun. We raised over $70,000 this year. I can't even believe I can say that amount, but it was a great, great night. And so that's our big event. And then we have other people that will do things for us as well. So Tanger Outlets over in Washington County will do a 5K. And actually today that's taking place. So we'll be over there very shortly. And they do a 5K. The rest of the month at Tanger Outlets, they do these pink cards. And so they have a pink card shopping, which is a 25% card that takes off whatever the most expensive thing that is that you're buying in 30 of their stores, and you can use it in all the stores all month long, over and over again. So that's a huge fundraiser for us, and so we encourage everyone to do that. And then we have people that will do things like we have kids, and I love to see when kids get involved because it inspires them to do something for someone else, to get their head into volunteerism. And then they're good at that kind of stuff. And it carries, I think, through as they go through into their adult life. So we'll have kids that will make cards. And, one of my favorite ones is when they make a picture of a bird, they draw a little picture of a bird and they say, "Chirp up, God loves you, and so do I." And then on the back, someone will write, "This card was made by Jason, age 5, and they'll have his address. And so a lot of times ladies will send something back saying, "Thank you, Jason. That was really important to me." And, it's so important and so awesome to be able to get community involvement like that. And then we have a gal who was a teenager, and her grandmother had breast cancer just a few weeks ago that she did giving back because we helped her grandmother. She wanted to help more people. And so she did a Kona ice truck. And so they have like these snow cone trucks that she had to come out to her team, her athletic team group that they were doing. And then all of a sudden the parents came up with checks and envelopes, and it became a fundraiser where she thought she was going to make a couple $100 maybe to over $1,400.
Wow.
So it blows the kids away to say, wow, look at how important I can be, and other people will support me in something that is really making a difference. So those are the kind of things that we love.
Bonny Diver, Lisa Graff, talking with WHJB's Westmoreland Community Connections today about the 501c3 called Hair Peace. That's PEACE. Check it out at hairpeace.org. Ladies, you are amazing and touching, and I wish all the best for you. Thank you for all that you do for those who are suffering. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, we thank you very much for having us. And, and the numbers, just to give you a quick amount of impact that we have had, we've helped thousands of women. All right. But last year, even during COVID, women wanted to look good, and women didn't want to be without their hair. We helped over 400 women in 2020. More people are calling this year. Every year we grow a little bit more, but we are going to hit more than 400 this year for certain, for people who are calling for help. We do everything out of my home. We don't have office space. We keep it really, as
lean.
I say, basic.
Yes, it's lean.
Basic.
Yes,
You know where it's going. The money goes to help out women, and in our area, it's local, and it has been a real act of God, in my opinion, that he has put this in my path, and that's part of the piece of Hair Peace, and that he is the one really in control. And as long as he wants us to keep doing this, it's going to continue on with the help of generous people. And I want to thank all the listeners for being a part of our program today. Lisa, you're an amazing survivor, and you've got an amazing future in front of you to do more and more good, to make a dark time in what we have as one part of our life become bigger than cancer. So I'm very proud of Lisa and all of our survivors. And Jennifer, thank you very much.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB.
This has been Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings in and around Westmoreland County. Join us again next week on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of Citizens Fiber.